Hey guys, welcome to the Men of Iron podcast. I want to thank everybody for being part of this community, and one of the best ways you can help us grow this community is by sharing this podcast with others. Leave us a review and share it with your friends, share it with your network, have them share it with others, and let's get this thing growing. If you've been kind of following along, you know what we've been talking about. We came off this series on Moses a couple of weeks for several weeks. Last week we talked about kind of this new topic of leadership that we're going to be honing in on over the next couple of weeks. But today I really want to talk about this idea of continuing this delegation piece of how do we build a team, how do we delegate to the right people. And a few weeks ago in our previous series, we talked about the importance of mentoring the next generation. And I believe this is one of the most important initiatives that we can take place in, or that we can take part in as men, is really identifying who is that person that God is expecting me to develop and to mentor that is going to be beyond my time here on earth. And continuing on this theme of Moses, we know that his successor was Joshua. And I want to focus in today on Numbers chapter 27. This is where Joshua is to succeed Moses. And there's a couple verses in here, verses 15 and 16, where it says, Moses says to the Lord, "May the Lord, the God of all spirits of all mankind, appoint a man over this community to go out and come in before them, one who will lead them out and bring them in, so the Lord's people will not be like sheep without a shepherd." You know, it's very interesting because it's as if Moses knew, right? As a leader, as a man, he knew that the mission that God had given him was going to be well beyond him at the same time. It was almost this temporary assignment. And so he is going to God earlier, like we talked about last week in chapter 11, saying, hey, I can't carry all this on my own. And God gives him instructions to build a team. And God says, hey, I'm going to put the same spirit that's on you, and I'm going to put it on them. And we talked about that in last week's episode. But he builds a team. He's investing into other people, and specifically he's investing into Joshua. And one of the ways that the mission that God gave him, the promise that God gave Moses, came to fruition was because Moses intentionally poured into Joshua. This was one of his key people. And so when you look at this story and when you look at this mentorship, when you look at this relationship between Moses and Joshua, what many of us don't realize is this is 40 years of mentorship. This is 40 years of Joshua listening and watching and even leading in some cases under Moses before he takes over the actual role of leadership over Israel. And so Moses is the one that leads the Israelites out of Egypt, right, and through the wilderness. But by the time that comes to an end, Joshua is more than well prepared to lead them into the promised land after Moses dies. And so leadership in and of itself is really a key component of it, is mentoring the next generation. And I look at being Joshua, and I have to wonder, like, how many times in that 40 years was he thinking, like, when is my time coming, right? Like, Lord, when are you going to give me this mantle of leadership? Like, when am I going to be the guy? There's probably maybe a little bit of pride there. I don't know. Maybe it's not safe to assume that. But the bottom line is that we live in a culture right now, particularly those of us in maybe our early 20s to early 30s, and we're just starting careers. We're just kind of getting into these roles in the organizations and the businesses that we're working for. And we have a desire to be promoted. We want to be the guy. And when we're not, we're living in, I talked to a guy this morning that says we're living in a microwave culture where we just want results right now. And I look at the patience of Joshua, and I look at the willingness of Moses. So I want to talk to those of us right now that are in a position where we want to be developed as a leader. We want that leadership role. We want that next promotion. Maybe we should be less persistent in a promotion. And rather, maybe we should look for the right place where we can be developed under the right person. Maybe it's not necessarily, men, about the timing in which we're going to get that promotion or the timing in which we're going to get that particular role. And maybe it's more about trying to put our efforts into finding the right place, the right organization that have the right people that we can sit under to learn and be developed, whether it takes 5 years, 10 years, or in Joshua's case, 40 years. Now, I want to talk to the leaders that are out there, because many of us, we get this idea that we've got a mission and we've got to get things done now, right? And so we are quick often, and good leaders are great at delegating and elevating others because we know that, we can't carry it all on our own. Those are the best kind of leaders that understand that. But Joshua sat under Moses for 40 years, which tells us a lot about Moses. Like, we have to have a willingness inside of us as leaders to spend time and develop others and not just develop the bottom line. Let me say that again. We as leaders have to have a willingness inside of us to actually spend time with and develop others and not necessarily just developing the bottom line. And so you have two men here that I think play a crucial role in leadership. You've got Moses, who God gives the promise to, he gives the mission to. Moses shares that vision with Joshua. Joshua gets on board, but there is 40 years. That is a long time. Moses does delegate and elevate along the way, but as far as preparing him for when Moses is gone, it's 40 years. So there's those of us that we need to identify, hey, is there a willingness inside of me to bring others along on this mission? Am I willing to mentor? Am I willing to teach? Am I willing to spend time with? Am I willing to develop this person? And then there's those of us that are in the development role, right? We are the ones being developed. And oftentimes we can be very guilty of being impatient and wanting that promotion now. And when in reality, we should be looking instead of trying to find that right place where we can be developed under the right person. So my challenge to all of us is, if you are the leader, evaluate this week, how has your time been spent mentoring and developing others? And are you willing to put that time in if you're not doing it? And then there's those of us that are in more the protege role. Are we focused more on the timing of our next promotion and the impatience piece of that? Or are we focused on the process? Are we looking for the right place to be developed under the right person? We'll talk to you guys next time.